So we've had a really fun week, a really fun weekend in particular. So we had Performance High Jam. We had a gig in Moffit County.
Right.
In Craig.
Tell me about the jam. I was not at the
Oh, yeah. You weren't
jam.
invited.
I was not invited.
You're always... That's funny. That's like I think it's the first... No, it's the second thing of Performance High that you haven't been invited to.
Yeah.
So the jam... we used to do Performance High jams during the pandemic. We started doing them... It sounds funny to say we started doing jams during the pandemic, but basically we found a very large, well-ventilated place that we could have 5 or 6 people in who were still socially distanced with lots of, the HVAC was
super high.
Basically
ceiling.
a big co-working space that so that was a way for us to get musicians some work and be social and get together and make music. Well, those kind of fizzled after a while. So we didn't do them for a while, but we did have some people requesting them. So we did another one on Thursday, and the format for this one was a little different. Whereas this is our third round of jam attempts at Performance High. The first round we did was every other week, show up, request a song. We'll try to learn it on the spot. I was playing bass, you were playing
drums. Probably, yeah.
Yeah. And it kind of worked. Sometimes we had a good number of people, but a lot of times people would request a song that you can't just play on the spot.
Right. Yeah.
Stuff that takes some homework.
Yeah, not just everybody's heard that song a million times, but like,
like your favorite B-side from
here's
1972.
A deep B-cut. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just hard to do well.
Yeah.
So, and then those fizzled after a while. So then we did the jams at Converge Workspace during the pandemic.
Right, the big workspace. Yeah. They were more themed, right?
Yeah,
if I'm remembering.
We did one a month, and each month we had a collection of 13 to 15 songs in a theme, like country music or classic rock or, current pop, I think, whatever.
Uh-huh.
And we had some people show up to some of those, but also those fizzled after a while too. And the problem with that was that a lot of times people would say, I don't know any of the songs that you're doing. And my thought was, well, learn some. Well. We publish them in advance. But I think a lot of people just want to sing what they want to sing, which I get.
Right.
So now this round, and we'll schedule another one, but this round, I'm opening up signups in advance so people can pick whatever songs they want. And then a month before the jam, we close it and we figure out who's going to play what, which songs we can actually manage to do. So we basically pull together a band.
Sort of like a mini showcase situation.
Yeah, with no audience.
Except
everybody else who's attending.
But people are requesting songs, and the band is showing up having learned those songs.
Yeah, it's not the showcase band, but
No, right.
So,
yeah.
It is, sometimes it's if people want to play guitar, they may say, hey, that song looks cool, I'll learn to play guitar for that. Or we have bass player student Eva, she said, I'd love to learn to play bass on these 2 songs. So, she covered those. So we kind of just split it all up. I played piano on most things, I played bass on maybe one.
Yeah.
And so it was a jam on Thursday night. So the interesting thing was that we had 5 people sign up with about 13 songs, and only one of those people actually showed up to sing. I don't know. You tell me how we need to run our jams. I don't know what to do. I mean, we still had several people there. We had people come and check it out like it was an open house, and they're going to sign up and take lessons. So that was really cool. And we just had fun. I mean, we seriously just had fun.
And that's the main thing.
Yeah. But it was mainly like teachers and staff of Performance High.
Yeah.
Which has its own value, but we're also trying to do this for the students.
I've never.
School.
Yeah, we haven't completely cracked the code on that
I
one.
know.
It would seem like, hey, come play music with people who are for free
in a low pressure situation,
who are willing to do the exact music you want to do.
I know, and do the homework in advance. Because if you go out to a jam in Denver. There's all kinds of different ones, but you're not going to have a group of musicians who learns the songs for you that you want to learn,
right? And it's
or that you want to perform.
Likely to be a lot more generic material, not generic in a bad way, but just like superstition by Stevie Wonder and...
or if it's a jazz jam, it's the jazz
standards. Yeah, it's just all going to be standards that everybody knows, not custom, like that's your favorite song.
And it's also a lot higher pressure. So a lot of the people that we work with would be intimidated to go to something like that. It's intimidating. I'm intimidated to go to something like that. I've gone.
Right.
But, and I went a lot before the pandemic. But, I don't know. It may sound frustrated because even though we had fun, I was like, I'm doing this for you guys. Why didn't you show up? Yeah. Oh, well.
So, it's great that you did it.
Yeah, and it was super fun, and we're going to do it again, regardless, because it was just fun to hang out.
I don't think I've ever mentioned this to you, but before I even met you, when I moved to Denver, the first couple of months I was here, I went to every jam I could find in the city and did not get up one time.
No way.
No one let me up one time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did they run out of time, or was it
it was always run out of time, or like, oh yeah, sure, you play, that's cool, man, great, hope you enjoy when I get up there. Yeah,
that is another challenge with jams out in the wild.
And I only tried, and I'm a guitar player, so that's the bulk of people who are at jams. So don't get me wrong, if you're a singer, especially, you're going to get up a lot quicker. Bass player, drummer, you're going to get up a lot quicker. Mostly guitar players at those things. But yeah, and I went for a couple of months and no one let me up one time.
Wow.
Yeah. They were just like, oh, you're a musician? That's cool, man. I'm glad you think you are. And like, and so I stopped doing it. So I guess the lesson there would be, it may take some perseverance, and you may not be able to go to your local blues jam or your local whatever jam and get up. The first time, you may need to put the FaceTime into kind of becoming a regular and a known quantity around the room before you even get up. Some of them, I'm sure, are way better. I'm talking about 10 years ago. And just the ones I could find. So I don't, that's the other hard thing.
Yeah. Local 42 was great. I went as a bass player a lot before the pandemic. Right. And that was, the key to that was just showing up early. So I would show up before the jam started, and I was one of the first 3 people signed up. So I always got up.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'd never even heard of Local 42. So again, just my experience. And now, if you are in Denver, there are some great resources. There's a website that I think is just called Denver Open Mic, or maybe it's Front Range Open Mic, that has a list of everything by night. There's a couple of Facebook groups, so there's a lot more resources out now than just like driving around and looking at signs.
Yeah.
Anyway, not to bog that down, just thought interesting.
Yeah.
So that was Thursday. The Performance High Jam was Thursday.
Yes.
And then Friday we drove up to Craig, Colorado.
Yeah, like 45 minutes or an hour west of Steamboat.
Yeah. About 4-ish hours from Denver.
Yeah, gorgeous drive. It wasn't as far as I thought it was. I thought it was more like 5 hours. So it was just beautiful, green, rolling hills and mountains, and first the Colorado River and then the Yampa River.
And the Yampa River, yeah. We were up there for the Moffit County Hot Air Balloon Festival. They have a pretty big, I guess, hot air balloon festival, which this morning you took a ride on a hot air balloon.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Petty Nick's experience was playing there, and just to make contextual banter during the show, I said something about how, within the band, we're talking about like how crazy those hot air balloonists are, and some of us think that they would never go up in a hot air balloon.
Not gonna happen.
Never. And I was like, but I would. And I said, so how many of you out here are hot air balloonists, or whatever hot air balloon people are called? And a couple of people raised their hands, and I said, well, if you feel like taking me for a ride, you know where to find me. And indeed, the organizer of the whole thing came up to me afterwards and said, if you're serious about that, I can get you on a balloon tomorrow morning if you show up by 6 a.m. And I was like, yeah? So we partied till 1 after the gig.
Yeah.
And then I set my alarm for like 5:20 or something, and I got over there and had an amazing time. I learned a lot.
It looked amazing from high flying to like you were, what did you call it, surfing?
I called it surfing. I don't know if they call it surfing. We were skimming the Yampa, yeah. So it was like a combination of flying, scuba diving, and driving a boat. There are certain things about it. Well, I mean, obviously the flying part, the way that you manage the height is with, you like burn some propane to heat the air in the hot air balloon.
Yeah,
it's not helium like we were thinking. It's just air.
It's in the name.
It's just air.
Hot air balloon.
It's the hot air that raises the balloon. But you just give these little puffs of propane that burns, and that heats the air and that lifts it. But the reason it feels like scuba diving is because I recall when scuba diving, like to maintain the same height in the water, you were always kind of managing how, like personally at least, I would manage how much air I had in my lungs. Right. So if I wanted to rise, I would take a bigger breath, and if I wanted to sink, I would keep a little bit less air in my lungs. So it's just kind of like managing this float, just by managing densities.
Right.
And then the way it was like driving a boat was you would, either wait for the air to cool, and you would dip a little bit, or you would give it a little bit of propane and wait for it to rise. But you couldn't like give it a hard control because you would overcorrect every time. You can't wait until you really see that you're dropping, because then it's too late. And you can't see that you're really rising, because then you're going to get into the next level of air currents.
Right.
So it's just like a little bit, like a 1-2 of like, and then you wait to see, did that make us
How much
move?
did that
make us move?
Yeah.
And so like driving a boat is much like that. You can't like drive up to the dock and then put on the brakes.
Not at all. No, right. You've got to stop. There's no brakes.
Stop, wait, see how it drifts, see how it took.
Yeah.
Then get a little correct.
Do I need to kick it? Yeah. Which I was blown away that I thought it was so interesting, number one, that's how you steer a hot air balloon, which we're transitioning into this being a hot air balloon podcast. I hope you guys stick with us. Apparently you steer by, there's all these wind currents that, as you said, may only be 10 feet.
Some of them are so narrow.
And so you rise up 10 feet, and that kind of makes you go to the left. But if you want to go back to the right, you try to find maybe a higher or a lower current.
Yeah, you just kind of have to explore the currents or look at the other balloons.
Right. Well, yeah, of course.
To see what they're doing. Sure, that one's up there, and he's heading that way, so we know that the current up there
so we can,
will make us go that way. Or if we want to go that way, we can drop and see if something takes us that way. It was very hard to land because we ended up in a completely still area. Like we were in an area we couldn't land, but
it wouldn't push you anywhere.
Yeah, if we went up, we were being pushed over towards a power generation station with a bunch of power lines,
which is not ideal.
Not ideal. And if we went down, we were going to land in an area that was inaccessible to trucks. We eventually found a way to land, and it was all very interesting.
Right.
But, the pilot was Hoot. He was an Alaskan bush pilot his whole life, and now he flies balloons. 2 pilots balloons. Anyway, that was a dream come true. I love flying. I want to learn to fly in some capacity, paragliding or learning to fly gliders or something. That's on my bucket list. So that was I feel at home up there. Like that's where I want to be.
Yeah.
We'll see. Anyway, the gig. I mean, this is a music podcast, right? Out of the hot air balloon into the gig.
I'm still pitching. I'm still pitching.
I think we're going to run out of material pretty quickly.
Okay. So we'll get back to music for now.
So I had a realization. Okay, so that I wanted to share on the podcast. So we had this show. It was a 90-minute set with an outdoor audience, huge stage. Probably one of the bigger ones we've played.
I think it was like 30 by 60.
Yeah.
Like it was
really big.
Very wide, very deep.
Yeah. And it felt like we weren't getting the audience. We weren't, like, they weren't ours. And we've talked about this before, where there's a moment in the set where we get them. They're in. They're with us, right?
And they were enjoying it, and they were clapping, and they were singing along a little bit, but we didn't have them.
Well, the thing that this isn't a huge realization, but it's the thing I wanted to share. Having been in the audience and watched, like, I've gone through that I'm watching, now I'm in it sort of distinction. And this happened like the first time I really noticed it was when I started taking stage performance training with Tom Jackson in Nashville. And I would go to his conferences, and he would work with a performer or a band. They would play the song, and I'd be like, I watched that song. Great. It was played well, whatever. But I was watching it. I was external to the experience. I was watching them, and I was a separate participant. And then he would make some changes, and the thing would go, something would happen to draw you in, where all of a sudden, instead of instead of there being this barrier between me as observer and them as performer, we were in it together. It was like this zoom, like this connection where I was in the performance with them.
That is what it is.
And that's what we do with our audiences, and we know when we haven't done it yet.
Yeah. And I was looking for holes. Like, what's going to make it...
Yeah.
Like, let's try to do this thing, or let's, like, I'm going to run out front, or whatever, you know, like... And, like, I didn't think it was going to happen. Like, I thought they were going to have a great time and everything was going to be fine, but I didn't think we were going to get the
crazy,
the 500, however many people pushed up against the front of the stage.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. I didn't think we were going to get them.
But we got it.
Because we passed a couple normal milestones. Like, this is where, okay, all right, we'll get them here.
Yeah. And
then that didn't work. And then, okay, we'll get them here. And that didn't work.
Yeah.
And then I think we hit Dreams.
Dreams really started it. That's when people came up. And I could see it in the women's eyes. Like, we got the women first.
Right.
And then it was Rhiannon, and I think that's what got people.
I think Rhiannon, because we did the big...
Because I have this huge cape that I bought. It's like 18 inches taller than I am. So it just drapes on the floor.
Yeah.
But when I spin, it's so big.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of room to spin on this stage. There was plenty of room. So.
And we kind of have like a set piece with blocking that we...
Yeah.
You know, I come around the other side of you, so it's the first time I'm on the other side of the stage than I normally am.
Yeah.
Not that matters that much, but...
It's a change in pressure,
It's a change in pressure.
Yeah.
I had fun just literally running around that stage. It's been a while since, like,
I've never seen you run on a stage, like literally run several steps, because we've never played on a stage quite that large, I think.
I mean, I know, like, the Boulder Theater, I was running around a lot. It certainly was not as deep and wide, but I would definitely, like, truck into the other side. But this one was definitely, like, it was like, if I was all the way up at the front to get back to the drums was 30 feet.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So, and I
Ryan was
like,
way back there.
Blah, 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 run back to the drums, blah, 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 run back.
Yeah.
But because the stage was so big, it felt like we needed, like, some big, physically big moves.
Yeah.
One thing that was interesting, too, is there were no stage lights.
Right.
I mean, it was lit.
Yeah, it was just white lights.
It was just white lights lighting it up.
And we had no LED backdrop either, so, like, all of the entertainment was on our shoulders.
Was just on that, yeah. So I just kept... And I wonder, that is actually a feeling I had in the beginning of the set was, we're doing everything right, it's just too small. They can't see the... We're doing these little things.
Oh.
And if someone's sitting, the stage is...
Right.
You know... The part of the stage we're set up on was 40 feet wide, and the audience is 50 yards back. Mm-hmm. They're not really seeing these smaller performance
they don't see expressions on faces.
They don't see the expressions.
They don't see small changes of direction or step this way or step that way.
Even a big guitar chop doesn't look like that much from that far away, and it was starting to frustrate me that, like, we're doing it, and it's not like they're not responding. It's just that they kind of, like, they're too far away from it. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it was just fun to run around.
Speaking of, like, of having big arena-sized presence, not that this was an arena, but you told me about some rock star you saw play in a very small place one time, like someone who walked on stage. Do you remember that?
It was Joe Perry from Aerosmith.
Okay.
Who's the literal reason I started playing guitar, was hearing Joe Perry play guitar, and I was like, I want to do that. And I saw him in a place in Jacksonville, maybe a 300-seater, 500-seater, and I couldn't tell you exactly what it was. It isn't like a combination of, like, oh, he had this look on his face, and then he did this, or he had these clothes on. It more than the sum of the parts. He walked out, and it was almost too much presence for the room. This is a guy from Aerosmith who'd been doing stadiums for 40 years at the time, and he walked into a room of 300 or 400 people, and you were almost like, whoa, dude, like, that's a little too much energy. But the person I was with, not an Aerosmith fan, actually an active disliker of Aerosmith, just went with me for the show, and as soon as he walked out, they started jumping up and down and screaming, like, ah, 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 like, just like losing their minds because clearly a rock star had walked into the room. And it was just, I mean, I think some of that, not that you asked, but my theory is that some of that is just, it's more internal than it is external. Mm-hmm. I think it's a level of confidence and a level of almost like internal size, like how big are your insides?
Yeah.
And they keep getting bigger when you're just, the more you're in the big rooms, your like insides get bigger, and the what you have to put out is just bigger. And it was just shocking. And I've played with guys that I've played with I played with pre and post stadium tours. Mm-hmm. And like what it did to them as players, and it wouldn't even be like, oh, they're way faster, they're way better. It's just like, you're playing way bigger, and I can't put my finger on it, but you're just playing way bigger. Mm-hmm. Because you had to, because you were filling up these rooms.
Yeah.
Playing with Randy or Barry from Shinedown or a couple other guys. I'll never remember their name. Anyway. Yeah, there's just that,
Hopefully we keep playing bigger and bigger places,
bigger and bigger
my insides can get bigger and bigger.
Yeah. It'll happen. But it's funny, too. It's weird. We also talked about outside is so weird because it almost doesn't matter how loud, how big the crowd is or loud the crowd is. It just goes off into it's not like playing theaters where you really get the thunder.
You don't really feel the response as well.
You don't feel the response as well. And then also your playing doesn't echo back to you.
Oh, yeah.
So it feels like you're just slamming as hard as, and it's just drifting off into...
Yeah.
The sound was, I'm sure, very good. When we got out in front of the monitors a couple times, it was great. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
But anyway, that was the show.
Yeah, and then we signed lots of autographs of little kids.
We did.
Oh my gosh! During the last song, 2 little girls called me up to the very front of the stage, which was a ways up. I mean, the stage was so deep, so even the monitors were several feet back from the front. They called me up, and they each were holding up one of these bracelets, and they wanted to give them to me. I'm so touched. So I have new bracelets now.
Yeah.
From these little girls. Anyway, we signed all kinds of things. We signed many baseball caps.
Yeah, a lot of hats.
I signed a cooler, like a little
Igloo
cooler.
Cooler.
I signed this one guy he was like, "You want to sign my oxygen tank?" And he's like, "Oh, maybe you shouldn't though, because I have to." It's like I have to keep it in good shape because if I don't return it, it's $500 or something. And I was like, "Yeah, I probably shouldn't sign your oxygen tank."
Yeah.
Then he said, "Well, you want to sign my label, like the sticker that goes on his oxygen tank?" And I was like, it was like a piece of paper, like the size of a fortune cookie. So I was like, sure, I'll sign that. So I signed.
I signed a kid's arm. He wanted me to sign his forehead, and I'm like, I'm not signing your forehead. It's like a goofy 10-year-old kid.
Yeah. It was fun.
And I mentioned in the car, it's fun, and you feel a little silly signing autographs for you're playing somebody else's music, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like, how can you not? Like, to them, they had this great time, and it was a big deal, and, all those little kids were just like, they thought it was just...
Yeah, the experience they had was real.
Absolutely.
And we are the ones who provided it to them. So, I mean, of course, I don't autograph Stevie Nicks. I'm autographing Adrienne O.
Yeah, right.
That would be a step too far.
Yeah, I've always felt like it's just this tiny thing you can do to give back.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
To me, it's never been an ego thing that, like, oh, of course, I'm so great. It's like, okay, you thought this was really cool. You want me to do something for you. Like, sure.
There was one time I signed autographs for being a water skier. Did I ever tell you about that?
No, I did not.
Yeah. So I competed in water skiing for a long time. There's the amateur level, which I did most of the time, but there's also a pro level. So even at nationals, which is mostly amateur, there's a pro level. It's called open, like in many sports. So there was the year that I had a water ski crash, which resulted in me moving to Colorado. I didn't ski enough tournaments to even qualify to ski amateur nationals. you have to ski 5 tournaments. And since I had a crash, I couldn't log those tournaments. But my score at the previous year's national was just exactly enough to enter open class.
Right.
So I was like, well, I want to ski nationals. I'll ski open. And so here I am with my idols. Like, there are 8 of us. There are only 8 women in open class. And I'm number 8.
Oh my gosh, 8?
Yeah. A girl came up to get autographs from everybody, and she included me. She asked me for my autograph too. And I was like, you have no idea who I am. But I'm so pleased that you think I'm one of them. And I skied and I came in last in open class. No surprise.
Yeah, no surprise. So, just a plea.
That was my second ever autograph of my lifetime. My first one was in college when we went to sing karaoke at a Mexican restaurant. And some guy asked me for my autograph. Speaking of karaoke, we went to karaoke.
Oh my gosh.
After the show in Craig.
How did that get forgotten in the whole tale?
We had some fun times. Let's see. So they treated us really nicely. We had a trailer to hang out in, and we
Unbelievable. Randy, thank you so much.
Yes. Yeah, Randy, oh my gosh. What you really, really took care of us. Yeah.
Royal treatment.
Yeah. The best barbecue ever.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Unbelievable.
From the Western Slope. Somebody has a new company over there making barbecue and barbecue sauce. And
we're going to find out the name. We need to plug them.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the barbecue sauce.
Ari was saying, and he was a little drunk, but Ari was eating, and he was like, this is the best day of my life. Well, there was the day I got married, and there was the day my child was born. But this is the 3rd best day of my life. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then this afternoon, I ate some of that pear jalapeno sauce on the barbecue, and I was like, you're right. This is life-changing.
It was really good. Peach habanero sauce.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Anyway, we keep backtracking. Okay, so we were hanging out after the show, eating barbecue sauce, and then we decided to go out.
Yeah.
And
so we went to Mather's in Craig.
And they had a DJ, a KJ.
Yeah, doing DJing and karaoke, and Ari was just determined that someone was going to get up. So
he made me do it. So I did You Oughta Know by Alanis Morissette. And it's so weird singing karaoke in a bar where, like, this was mostly a bar for people to hang out. It wasn't mostly a karaoke bar. So, like, there's places where, like, everybody there is there to do karaoke.
Not a karaoke bar.
Not at all. There's karaoke in the corner, and everybody else was just, trying to hook up.
It's a small town Saturday night.
Yeah. So I'm singing, and the only people whose backs are not to me are you and Ari.
Yeah.
And Brian.
And Stax. Yeah.
So I'm like, well, you guys have seen me sing before, but whatever. I did it. But then when I finished, everybody cheered, so I guess they were listening.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, and then Vic actually got up and did Ring of Fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Ari was trying to bug me about getting up, and I was like, there's literally no... yeah, that was fun. Yeah.
Anyway, they had a big room in the back, too. We also played cornhole.
Yeah, we played cornhole. The furthest apart cornhole.
Oh,
like
my gosh.
50 feet apart. It was
Most of us were just lobbing them short.
Yeah. Yeah, so we played cornhole and hung out, and then you went on a hot air balloon, and...
Yeah, we stayed up. I didn't stay up as late as you guys, but I did go to bed at 1, and then you guys stayed up and drank more in the lobby, apparently.
I mean, I didn't. I just hung out for a little while.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, and then we got up and drove home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, kind of a standard week.
Yeah, standard week. I rode in a hot air balloon and played on a huge stage and...
As you do.
Ate the best barbecue of my life.
Just a standard week. Was so good.
Standard week of a rock star.
Although, how long has it been since you ate barbecue 3 days in a row?
Oh my God, I've had so much meat. I need to eat vegetables all week.
Too
much.
And the hospitality was amazing, and they made sure we were well fed, but it was all barbecue. And it was great, and we're not complaining. It's just I haven't had barbecue 3 days in a row. I don't know when. But gosh, we're gonna slow down after this as far as travel, at least.
That's right. As far as travel and Petty Nick's gigs.
They're gonna.
We have a few weeks before the next one. We have a duo gig this weekend, though, at the Log Yard, which is central Denver, just north of I-70.
Yeah.
Real central area. So that's going to be another duo thing for us.
Duo thing, and
what are you doing?
I got some Howl coming up, and dueling pianos coming up. And, the petty gigs are, we're just dropping down into 2 a month or something, not,
Not 3 a week.
Yeah, not 3 a week. And recording stuff, just clicking along, session after session.
Cool.
Anyway, I guess that's looking like about 35 minutes.
Yeah, I have to cut this down a little bit. But yeah, any other takeaways other than what we've talked about?
One takeaway for me that I will say is I really realized we were talking about being on stage and the show and how just trying to figure out how to get them.
Yeah.
Or trying to see if you could figure it out. Sometimes it happens and it isn't like you figured it out. It just happened. But I really realized, even in the moment, I realized like more than the actual cheers and the whatever, the positive things coming towards me, my drive, I just realized in the moment, is I just want to know what'll get these people. It's just kind of like being a scientist. Like, I just want to know. Like, I don't care about the cheering. I'm just gathering information about what gets the cheers. And that is my, like, weird drive to make it happen, is I just want to know what will make it happen.
That is so you.
Yeah.
Because you have this drive to unlock the puzzle of people.
Right, that's a good way to say it.
You like to figure out what makes someone tick.
Right.
That's why you do artist development.
I love doing artist development. Yeah, and it is, And a crowd is like a big person. I mean, it's
right.
however many people, but they every crowd has a different personality. Mm-hmm. Every crowd has different trigger points and different pressure points. As we've talked about, talking to crowds and kind of tailoring a few things, because it's just a different thing. But I'm always just like so fascinated, like what's gonna make this, and I would have to think about a bit about my conclusions about Saturday night. We're 24 hours away from it, but I just realized in the moment, like running around like a maniac and even messing up a little bit because I was overdoing it. But I was like, I just want to know what's gonna, what's the key?
Yeah.
What unlocks this?
Yeah. I feel like I've gotten a little better as I've played around with how to talk to the crowd. I'm starting to feel my way through how deep to go in which situation, how deep and how long, or how shallow and how short. Mm-hmm. With different crowds, and I'm getting better at kind of tailoring something specific to them.
Right.
Not saying something more than like, thanks for having us at X venue in X city. But
I commented on that. I think you did a great job with this particular crowd at being just more low key, more kind of responsive, more kind of just a little more, a little less official, a little more kind of like, hey, we're all here together, and you were kind of just being a little more
kind of down to earth.
A little more down to earth. Yeah, I think you were kind of doing it a little different.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I'm not saying you like nailed any particular detail, but I think you read that was the thing to do, especially early on.
I didn't consciously do that.
Yeah, but I think you did a great job of kind of being like, hey, let's be a little more accessible. Let's be a little more... This is a little less of a situation where we can do the whole theater show and like, we need to be a little more,
Also, we're not going to get super tender here. Like, I'm not going to go deep in some story about
it's just
my
not, you're
dad
in a park and it's,
how much, it opens my heart to sing Landslide. I mean, I go in that direction, but I don't go like into the story.
You skimmed it a little.
Here's the thing, but we're all here to have fun, so let's just keep going.
Yeah, and there was the one lady who was yelling at you the whole time, like everything you said was something you said to her in a conversation.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know if you heard it.
No.
But it was like everything you would say is like, you'd say something and she would just be like, yep, that's right.
No, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I said the same thing the other day. Like, just like, it's like completely like, just like having a conversation with you. But loving the show. It was very engaged. Yeah, that's my takeaway. That's my takeaway for the week. And yeah, next week, finishing up music video.
Finishing up the shooting, yeah. The editing's going to take a while. Starting showcase prep.
Showcase prep. That's coming up quick.
Yeah.
Showcase at the Oriental. Or the O.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's that.
Thank you guys.
Thanks for listening. See you next week.